Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining another episode of VAAS Live. I'm Seth Jones, your co-host, along with Chad Nuss, who's going to be joining us here shortly. And boy, are we glad that you're joining us this evening for another great episode where we put the conversation into creativity. And the whole goal of VAAS Live is that you can join us while we work and while you work. So I hope that you have your paints out, your sketchbook out, your pencils, your knitting needles, whatever it is. We hope that you're creating with us for the next 2 hours. So thanks for joining us this evening. Again, I'm going to be continuing work on, and I'm going to kind of step back and show you guys a little bit. I'm going to continue work on a painting that I have here in the grisaille process, in the grisaille style. And hopefully you guys can kind of see I've gotten some work done on it. I've been putting in some work and have been able to get a little bit done, and I'm going to continue on this. Chad, once he gets set up, he actually just finished a class here at VAAS. And he's getting home and getting set up. He's going to continue book 3 of The Silence, which is his 3rd graphic novel in his wonderful series. So hopefully you get excited to see him create these pages, create these panels, draw it, sketch it, ink it, and then finalize it. And then you can pick up a copy of the book too. And if you're local, you can reach out to us. You can find it online. But we have books 1 and 2 of The Silence here at the Visual Arts Academy and Studio. And if you're not familiar with us, we are the Visual Arts Academy and Studio based out of Louisville, Kentucky, where we teach fine art classes as well as creative drawing classes, exploration sessions. We have the gallery upstairs. We teach individuals of all ages and all skill levels. So we hope that you join us here locally for some sessions and classes, experiences, gallery experiences, things of that nature. Before we dive any further, I want to give a big shout out to a really good friend of mine, Alan Lanning. Alan, I hope you're watching, buddy, because Alan dropped this off today, which is a poster of Wolverine, which is my favorite character. But if you can see this up here, it's actually signed by Chris Claremont, the writer, which is absolutely amazing. Alan, I cannot thank you enough. This is going to be a wonderful addition to our lounge reception area, especially with all my Wolverine figures. If you haven't been in and seen it, we have an entire collection of Wolverine because Wolverine is the best at what he does, and it's amazing. So, Alan, thank you so much for this kind contribution from your private collection. We'll be adding this to our wall and our showcase there in the lounge and reception area so that not only can I get to enjoy it, but everybody else can enjoy it also. So just wonderful things like that. This community that we have growing is unbelievable, and we're so glad that you're part of it. Give us a like, follow us, share. Let us know you're here. Let us know what you're working on. The whole goal is to get you engaged with us, to create with us, but also to ask questions about processes, experiences. We're going to talk about art. We talk about art history. We talk about all kinds of fun things. So we hope that you give us some feedback and some comments as well. Chad is going to be joining us here, our very own humble wizard. I have a special surprise coming in for him on Monday. Hopefully he'll show it to you guys next week. Going to be a really exciting time. But we're going to get started. I'm going to dive in. I am going to be working on this lower left-hand section here. So I'm going to be moving my camera a little bit for you guys, hopefully so that you guys can see it. I'm working on a section of this painting that is a blanket. And so if you can kind of see, one of the things I'm going to talk about is the difference in mark making and texture usage, right? And so in this blanket, and if you guys can see this here, I'm going to take this camera off, see if I can get a little bit closer. So if you look at the texture of the skin and the face and the hands, it's very soft. It's very well blended. But then as I got into these headphones, I blocked in some of this. This is like a camouflage texture here. But then as you get down to this blanket, if you see here, the texture here is a little bit more rough. I didn't blend as much. It's a little bit more modeled, a little bit more texture driven, because the idea is that it softens up this blanket. And so as you bounce back, as you get further away, the contrast between the skin texture of the brushwork as well as the texture of the blanket becomes a little bit more significant, right? It becomes a little bit stronger. And so this is the grisaille process, which is an old Flemish style. There's different styles. But the idea is I'm getting my values painted down exactly the way that I want. I'm going to use brush strokes and techniques to kind of get there. So I'm going to be continuing to work on this blanket around here in this section down here on the left-hand side today. Ask me questions. Let me know what you think. If you like the painting so far, what do you think of the painting so far? But I'm going to get that going. And then Chad's going to be working. I think he's drawing page number 3. Oops, sorry about the camera movement there. Hopefully nobody got sick from it. But hopefully Chad's going to be working on page 3 of his novel series when he gets in there and gets going. But thanks for jumping in, guys. I'm going to get painting. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, any feedback, anything like that. We're going to dive in and get going here. Now, one of the things that I have done is I typically pre-mix a lot of my pigments. So that way when I sit down to paint, I already have everything pretty well structured and good to go. but I haven't mixed any today because I had a class earlier. So what I'm going to do too is I'm going to show you guys typically a couple of the ways that I work. So I have a glass palette that I'm working off of. The glass palette tends to clean a lot easier. And I've got my raw umber. I'm using MH paints today. And so I've got my raw umber and my titanium white, and I'm going to be mixing up some of my values. And what I'm doing is I know that I'm on my lighter value scale here. And so I'm going to pre-mix with this, get some of this going. And I'm super excited to create my values with it. And so I like to pre-mix those so that when I look at what I need on my palette, I already have it there. I already know where I'm at. I'm already going. And I know the values that I want to work with. I ended up having these pre-made the other day, but by the time I got through, I ended up using all of my pigments. So I need to remix. And so I'm just taking my palette knife, and value control is really important. And I think mixing oil paints is incredibly therapeutic. If you're having a rough day or a rough week or a rough go, a moment, whatever it is, get your oil paints out and just mix them, because it is just one of the most therapeutic things I think there is. It's just lovely. The creamy nature of it, the beautiful mixing of the colors, it just becomes so nice when you're mixing these palettes. And what I'm going to do, and this is what I teach too, is I pre-mix most of my pigments before I sit down. I have some friends, Mitchell Kaufman, he actually talked about how he'll spend a whole time a day before mixing his pigments up so that he knows he's got what he wants to go. And that's part of the beauty of the oils, is that you can freeze them, you can keep them, they last longer. You can put them in a stay wet palette, and they hold. It's not like acrylics where once you mix them, if you don't keep them wet, they don't stay as long. Now, granted, there's ways to extend the life of those mixed paints and acrylics as well. But I just think the creamy nature of oils is absolutely brilliant and therapeutic when you're mixing. So hopefully you're mixing some pigments with us and you're going to be painting on some of your own work. I got to be honest, I'm very happy with how this painting is coming along. It's amazing to me. I don't normally paint portraits or people, but I've started with the other two paintings that you've seen us do here on the live stream. You see me paint Cora and my other daughter, Everly. And it's amazing how this one's going much smoother, in my opinion, because I've already done it 2 times previously. So now I painted people before, but not in a while. And I normally paint other things. And my old Kentucky home series was predominantly animals, horses and other animals and objects from the state of Kentucky. But I haven't done a lot of portrait work. And so this has been exhilarating for me to see how this second and third time has kind of come to life. And so really, I think it's just a lot of fun to be able to do this third one. My next painting is going to be a little bit different. One of my goals in life is to be asked to do the Kentucky Derby poster, and I have an idea that I'm going to be working on, and I'm really excited for it. So hopefully you'll get to see that one come to life here as well. You'll see it live on this live stream and get a chance to kind of watch that painting come to life. I'm really, really excited for it. I'm going to integrate some gold leafing and things like that. So I'm pretty jazzed for it. I think you guys are going to love it and hopefully like it a lot as well. But for today, I'm working on this portrait here, and I'm going to be working on the texture. And I hope that you'll notice that as I put my pigments on and my paint on, I'm going to let some of that brushwork really speak for itself. I'm not going to overmix. I'm not going to overblend. And I'm going to let the brushwork kind of create some of this soft texture for me that is hopefully going to be pretty strong. And right now, I'm just mixing up my pigments. Now, I will do some brush mixing on here, but I'm mostly doing palette knife mixing here, really getting these values in and working them in there. I do sometimes work with a handheld palette simply because I'm doing the live stream now. I'm not going to work with a handheld palette because it's a little too hard to talk and hold things as we go along. But let us know you're here. I love it when you guys let me know, ask some questions, give us a like, subscribe, or a share. Chad Nuss is going to be jumping on here with us shortly. So I'm going to dive in and start painting on this now, and I'm excited for it. So guys, let me know what you think. Let me know if you like the painting so far, and I'll try to kind of elaborate as I go. And kind of how I work, especially on this piece here, is I'm going to drop in my darker values first. I'm going to work dark to light. And even though this is kind of dark, it's not super, super dense. It's not super, super dark here. So I don't want to go too heavy with my pigments. But it is going to be a little bit darker than that. So even right away, guys, I realize I need to mix up a little bit darker of a value here. And it's not quite my straight raw umber, which is typically my darkest value in this underpainting. Now, you may say, well, Seth, why are you using raw umber instead of black? Typically, a grisaille is gray, which it is. It's typically using some kind of black, a Mars black, an ivory black, something of that nature. But I like to do mine with the raw umber and titanium white because I feel like it makes it very earthy. It makes it very natural. Sometimes it's a little muted, but I actually really, really like it. And I feel very connected to it. And so I started doing this a long time ago with illustration work where I would scumble with raw umber and white. So this has been over 25 years where I've used raw umber and white in paintings. And it never really dawned on me to do my grisaille in raw umber and white. And so I started doing that not too long ago, and I've really liked the approach with it. And I think it adds something to my portrait work. It makes them very earthy, and it gives it a little bit of a different flair, I think, than maybe some other artists. So I like it, and I enjoy it, and I'm going to kind of keep working on it, work on mastering that kind of skill set. But what we've got is we've got our next kind of folds here, and I'm going to be working on seeing if I can get this to come to life and really make this blanket nice and soft. And I think hopefully our humble wizard should be joining us here shortly. And you guys get to watch him create, and hopefully we'll get some good discussions going. But I'm so grateful for each and every single one of you guys that have joined us over on Facebook, on Twitch, on X. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thanks for jumping in. Bum, bum, bum. So notice I'm working these dark areas first, and I'm giving myself a sense of value range, right? By putting in these darks first, I know where my darks are, and I just feel like the lights kind of work a little bit better. And look, speak of the devil. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's not a good phrase, I suppose. But the wizard himself. We've got Chad joining us. Everybody, Chad, how's your evening going? I was telling everybody you just finished a wonderful class, and you'd be jumping in. But how's it going, bud?
It's good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, it's going great. I'm all set up, ready to get to work here in my little home studio. And yeah, I'm going to continue suffering through this pencils on this page here. This is the hardest part of drawing a comic, in my opinion, is the initial stage of actually drawing a page. I've seen comic book artists where this is the part that is the easiest, I guess, or at least they make it look easy, where they just like, throw a page out so quickly. But for me, this is the part that is really difficult because I'm not really using any references or anything like that. So I'm trying to make these kind of fantastical sci-fi scenes and ships and buildings all look real. So I'm relying a lot of on my memory and just training and that kind of thing. So this part's really the hard work. You'll see a lot of erasing going on, redrawing, but that's the part most artists don't want to show anyone. I think just because it feels weird to expose all your mistakes, but I think it's good because we all make those mistakes, and I think everyone has a different process, and I think sometimes we feel like if we have to redraw or fix things or erase a lot or take a lot of time, that's for whatever reason, the art is not as good, but that's just not true. So you get to join with me in my struggle here tonight.
Which we're so honored we get to join you. I will kind of piggyback off of that. One of the greatest lessons I had when I started my sequential studies, I always had this notion that pencilers, did perfect drawings right out of the gate. You know what I mean? Or like Charles Schultz or, Bill Watterson or any of these guys, they would do these perfect little drawings in their cartoons, And it wasn't until one of my professors showed us an original of Charles Schultz where he had used whiteout. Oh, right. Yeah. He had made a mistake and used whiteout to fix it and to adjust it. Then I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, you mean they weren't perfect pages? Like the drawings weren't perfect every single time? Because I guess I had it in my head that they were supposed to be, like you were saying, like this idea that, oh, it has to be this perfect drawing or else it's not there. But that's just not the case, Chad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. And that's we just had a sketchbook studio, and one of the things we talked about in that class is, it's the same with sketchbooks, that people have this kind of I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for?
Misconception?
Yeah, exactly. They have a misconception that, everything in your sketchbook is supposed to be these amazing masterpiece drawings, but the reality is the point of your sketchbook is to get everything down on paper, the good and the bad and the incorrect and the thing that needs to be worked on, so that when you get to these final pieces, you can, you have some practice with them and you kind of know where you're going with them. So it's the same with this. You often just see the final product. You see the comic book itself. You don't see all of the mistakes and redraws that went into that. So here
I
on
agree.
our live stream, you get to suffer with me in that. So
Well, suffering likes a community, and luckily we have the absolute best community around. I was showing people before you were able to jump on. I went ahead and gave a huge shout out to our dear friend Alan Lanning, who brought us a wonderful contribution to our collection here at the Visual Arts Academy and Studio, which was the signed poster from Chris Claremont
oh
of the
yeah,
Wolverine, which is just a wonderful donation and contribution to the Academy from his private collection, which is just staggering to me. I can't believe
it's
we get to have
amazing.
that up in the lounge and reception.
Yeah, it's incredible for sure.
And I think it's so funny. You're like, they get to suffer with you. And to me, it's exhilarating to watch you figure these things out. Because if you're a young artist out there, and we just had a couple of young artists here, figuring it out, I think is such a good skill, right? Chad, like, yeah, having great references is awesome. I'm working from a reference photo that I took. Other greats use reference photos all the time. You know what I mean? But I love watching you figure it out from all of I call it cataloging, visual cataloging, right? All of the years of experience of how many times have you drawn this object or that object, how many times you've drawn this. You're taking that collective thought, right, Chad, of what you've drawn or what and creating something new with it. And I think that's absolutely exhilarating. I love working from reference. I know a lot of people take reference. Alex Ross worked very heavily from reference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I love seeing you kind of process it and figure it out. And I think that's healthy for a lot of artists, and especially our young artists who get stuck. How many times have you seen some of your students get stuck with the shape of this or with how that's supposed to work? But the goal is to work through it, don't you think? I mean, to process through it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you a quick example. So I just got this page put up here that I'm working on. You can see the pencils here, and so I'm trying to work kind of this side of the spaceship over here. It's kind of like a wing, but when you come over to the original, if you'll notice, this wing is really close to the fuselage there. And so I've got to, because of this perspective, the ship is like coming right at you. I originally had the wing all the way out here, but that's not accurate to the original. So now I'm trying to bring it in a little bit while still maintaining just kind of this nice shape. So that's the example that, when I think of it being difficult and drawing and redrawing and those kind of things. Yeah, I mean, that's the struggle of especially with comic book work or when you're drawing things that are not real. That's the challenge.
But I think it's a fun challenge, and I think it's also very rewarding when you get there. It's just like I'm working from my reference photo here for this painting, but it's just like I was talking to one of our students about this. Yes, it's a painting, but and it's from a photo, but I don't want it to be a photo. I don't want it to believe. I don't want it to be an exact replication of that photo. I want it to be my interpretation of it for my painting, right?
Yes.
And so even then, I'm still making conscious decisions of what I'm doing and what I'm not doing. What am I choosing to do? Am I adding this pigment? Am I adding that value? Am I softening something up or adding more detail, right? And I think that, I like the fact of figuring it out as you work on it. I think it's great. We have a new comment here from Matt. Matt's one of our frequent contributors. If you've joined us anytime, you'll know Matt as well. Matt, thanks for jumping on as always. But he kind of gives me a little jab in the kidney here with, he says, I can't believe you guys aren't doing a live from Comic-Con. Matt, that may be something we do in the future. Maybe. We hope that we can get there. It would be amazing, Chad, I think, to do these live from Comic-Con someday. Maybe that's something we're able to do. I will tell you that we are hoping to join one of the local Comic-Cons this next coming summer in summer 2026. And Chad, I think we should do a live episode from the Comic-Con. I think that would be absolutely amazing. I think it'd be a lot of fun. We'll get a lot of contributors. So Matt, you're not too far off from where Chad and I have been thinking. for some of the future episodes, and maybe you can join us there when you're here locally. But thanks for jumping on as always, Matt. And maybe one of these days we will be at the San Diego Comic-Con or from any Comic-Con, but pretty soon we'll be there.
Yeah, I've done Comic-Cons before. I had tables there, and I love doing it. It's a really good time, and yeah, I look forward to us being able to do it for sure. So.
Well, I like the idea of doing a live stream from there also. I think that's really kind of a cool idea.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how successful was it? I mean, we just had one of our student exhibitions, Matt, and people were just exhilarated to watch Chad do the live stream. I was mingling and managing the student exhibition. But I think, Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, but people are like, oh, is he live? Is he doing this? This is awesome. This is really cool.
I had several people ask about that. Yeah, it was really cool.
It's fun to get everybody engaged and involved.
So what's your goal today?
So my goal is I really started working pretty heavily on the texture of this blanket. And I was talking about the different blending techniques from the skin you can see on her shoulder and the back here, as well as her tricep and her shoulder blade. And the blending is much softer here, whereas you can kind of see it, and I'll show it again later, but I already showed some close-ups where I'm letting the brush technique, the brush work create the softness of this blanket. And so I'm going to continue, because I have a good idea of how I achieve that, Chad. I'm going to continue working that and down here to soften this blanket and to keep working on these folds. And hopefully the goal is to get some good layering and some good dimension, but also a softness to this blanket so that I get a high level contrast between the flesh tones, the skin, as well as the blanket and some of the background objects. So my goal is to work on this blanket, really hone in, get some of that going, hopefully get something pretty nice there achieved.
Nice.
How about you? I know your goals kind of vary because of the suffrage.
Yeah.
But what are you hoping to achieve today?
Yeah, I think my goal for this is to get to a point where I'm starting to clean up this spaceship, and yeah, that's the main goal. If I can get beyond that, then I'd start putting in some of the buildings in the background and that kind of thing. But my main thing is to get the spaceship to where I want it, and it's pretty close. I'm getting to a place where I'm feeling more confident that it's confident it's correct in the way it needs to be, but it still needs a little bit of work. So
once you get that drawn out, will you go straight into the inking process, or will you draw out another page?
I think I'm gonna go back once I finish this page. I think I'm gonna go back and ink the first 6 pages, because that's like the opening sequence, and then this page will form part of the cover. So I'm probably go back, ink all the pages up to this point, and then make the cover, and then I can start in on the main story. So yeah, I think that'll be my next step, I think.
Awesome. Very cool. I do get excited because I always know that I get quite a bit of work done when we do the live stream, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, ooh, how much am I going to be able to get done today?
Yes, that's what, like, we talked about that a little bit last week. Kind of, we both have that kind of selfish, like, looking forward to doing this, because then we get some time to work on our projects here. But it is true. It's it's really helpful to get stuff done doing these live streams.
I will tell you, I'm kind of sad. Our artist in residence, Owen Rarick, if you guys remember a couple episodes back, Owen was able to join us, and he's going back to school. So we're going to be down one artist here in the academy, and it kind of makes me sad. I'm going to miss his presence in the academy and his creativity and his energy. And this is an example of where, like, that community really helps. You know what I mean? Like, he would always, it was always exhilarating. He would ask mine and your opinions on things, which, boy, doesn't that make you feel good? And, and all this stuff. And that sense of community. It's down one great creative artist. But at the same time, we got to be happy for Owen, excited and exhilarated for him. He's going to go and do some amazing artwork and some big things and continue his education. And we're just so grateful and happy that we got to be a part of it. And I know you feel the same way, sir.
Yeah, I was a little I don't know what the word is. I wasn't mad or anything, but he slipped out in the middle of me teaching a class. I wasn't able to say goodbye to him. When I first got up there, I was like, "Hey, so this is our last day together." He's like, "Yeah." And I was busy setting up, and I thought I should probably go over and say goodbye to him or whatever. And then I was like, "No, I'll just say something to him after class." And he slipped out in the middle of class, so I didn't get a chance to say anything to him. So
Well, he wrote a lovely letter, and I apologize. We were in such a hurry to finish up classes and to get situated, but I will let you read it next week. And don't be alarmed. I may have shed some tears on it.
okay,
I'm kidding. No, it was just a very kind gesture.
yeah,
And boy, that goes a long way. Kindness, Chad, you and I have talked about this a lot. Kindness is something that's always well received. And it was a very kind gesture. It was addressed to myself, Mr. Chad, and the VAAS team.
Well,
And
that's awesome.
I'll make sure I'm not going to divulge anything here, but it was just a wonderful note. And maybe it'll ease the pain of not getting to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Because as my grandmother used to say, it's not goodbye, it's see you soon.
Yeah. Well, I'll probably send him a little note over social media or something. So.
And that's the beauty of the world we live in, right? I mean, you can connect just like we are now. We're connecting with people all over the world, hopefully creating with us, getting their paints out, hopefully having a blast. And we can get to follow Owen and his journey pretty easily. You know what I mean? Like you and I have talked about this extensively. Could you imagine being an artist back in the day when you had to get on a boat or, cross land to go see somebody? Here, I mean, we can follow his creative journey pretty easily.
Yeah.
Pretty soon, we're going to have join us Sarah Nicole, who is one of our instructors here. She does a lot of our color pencils, watercolor classes. She's incredibly creative. She's an instructor here at VAAS, and she's going to hopefully be joining us in 2 or 3 weeks, guys, which I'm really, really excited for. I think you guys are going to enjoy getting to hear her perspective and her story as a creator and all that kind of good stuff. So be prepared for that in the coming weeks. Hopefully we'll get our co-founder Thomas back in, as well as a couple of other guests. We are moving and grooving here in the VAAS live sessions, guys, and we hope you enjoy it along with us. And so if you can see this, I'm trying to be pretty loose. I'm letting the brush create this kind of mottled texture because this blanket that's being used is this kind of soft, fluffy kind of blanket. So I don't want to overwork the pigments. I don't want to overmix or overblend. I don't want things to just become too soft. And so that's where I'm letting the brushwork kind of exist. And when you're up close, it kind of looks messy. You know what I mean, Chad? Like it looks kind of messy, but from a distance, you really get this sense that that it softens up. I'm going to take the camera off and show you guys. So hopefully you can see this here. So take a look at that. I showed at the beginning. That's the smooth blending, right? And then if you look down here, you can see that mottled brushwork, right? And so you can see that I'm just making it, I'm not over blending. I'm just letting the individual pigments. But when you get further back, it creates a varying texture from the skin to the blanket and even down to the smoothness of the leather couch. And so it's hard to see, but there's a lot of different values in that dark area there. But the goal is to get all these different textures and hopefully getting all these different textures to work well together, right? Independently, it's one thing, but the goal is to make sure that the plastic of the headphones reads hard and plastic versus soft and squishy versus super fluffy, right? Yep. And then making sure that all those values work together, because if you don't get those values working correctly, it's just a big mess of gray, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So that's the challenge. That's the goal. And then to constantly be comparing the values next to each other, right? Because you may have something that's super light, but then the lightest light on your painting is no longer the lightest light because it's become grayed out. And so you want to really work on those and hone those in, guys. If you're watching, if you're a painter, control your values. Your chroma is important. Your pigment's important. But your values will dictate your form and your mass and your relationships across the board of what you're painting. We got a few people that jumped on. I'm not going to get these right, but Katrine, thanks for jumping in. Black Rabbit Speakeasy, thanks for jumping in. Oh boy, I don't know how to say some of these, and I'm horrible at names, and you guys know I am. Tata 75, thank you so much for jumping on. Everybody over at Twitch, wow, all of you guys on Twitch, thank you guys for jumping on. You guys are absolutely amazing and wonderful. Everybody following on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, thank you as well. It's always a pleasure. And if you're watching this afterwards, thanks for picking it up and watching us afterwards, guys. We hope you learned something, have some fun. Make sure you get your sketchbooks and your paintings and materials and everything else. Make sure you get all that out and you're creating with us, because that's the whole goal, to get you creating alongside us and hopefully sharing with what you're working on. Mm-hmm. And boy, these, you want to talk about suffering through it. This blanket is very challenging. Making sure that these folds feel like they have weight. You guys hear me say this all the time, and it's kind of, I guess, kind of a running joke now for myself, which is always talk about things don't have weight. You got to make sure things have weight. You know, I don't want floating objects. Well, the challenge with the blanket is the blanket needs to have weight as well. I don't want the blanket to not feel like it doesn't fold in on itself or have mass when it's draping over something. You know, Chad, you do a lot of still life drawing and teaching of still lifes. Drapery is what? One of the most challenging things there is, right?
Yep.
And I think some of that challenge is often it feels like it's floating because you have to give it mass. You have to give it weight. Gravity is pulling that object down.
Yeah, and it's just filled with lots of abstract shapes, so it can be overwhelming.
Yes. But when you do them, when you break them down independently, right? When you break them down independently, like puzzle pieces, and then you see all those abstract shapes come together, it's exhilarating because now it creates something that you see as a whole different, right? Those abstract shapes come together to make the actual form that you're trying to achieve.
Yep.
But that's a lot of times you draw what you think you see instead of those abstract shapes. And then that's when it doesn't read well, at least in my opinion. That's when it doesn't come together because you're not drawing what's actually there. You draw what you want to be there.
Yep.
Guys, mark that down. That's a moment when Chad agreed with me. He didn't have a rebuttal. Let's mark this down. It might be episode 35, minute 22 and a half.
I'm just saying yes because I'm not listening to you.
That's probably more accurate. Kidding, teasing. I hope you guys are having a wonderful evening. I tell you what, here in Louisville, Kentucky, we are having some beautiful weather. It's perfect. It's fantastic. But wherever you are, wherever you're tuning in, I hope you're having great weather too.
Nice relief from our heat wave that we just made it through.
Yeah, that heat wave and the storm fronts. Boy, I think we had over 50% of our days had rain weather.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's insane. But I'll take it wet over dry any day. Those super dry desert summers, those are not always fun either. Now, if you have a pool, you may have wanted more dry. We do not have a pool, though. Man, this is challenging. There we go. Starting to come together now. We're getting there. If you've just joined us, thanks for jumping in. We are VAAS Live, the Visual Arts Academy and Studio based out of Louisville, Kentucky. We are a fine art academy and studio with a gallery and exploration sessions, fine art lessons ranging from everything from drawing, foundational drawing, to comics and cartooning, oil paints, acrylics, watercolor, color pencils, and so much more. We do fine art classes for artists of all levels, skill levels, beginners to veterans to masters. We also teach all ages, starting at 6 years old. So if you're ever interested in growing your expertise or getting to create, we have a place for you. Feel free to come in and join us and become part of this community. But if you're not local, VAAS Live is the next best thing. You can join us here live and jump in and build that community and that relationship with other artists and start creating with us. And that's the whole goal. So hopefully you've got something you're working on. Let us know what you've got going on. We're excited to communicate with you and create with you. I had somebody ask me the other day, Chad, if I considered myself a fast painter. And it's funny because I've talked to you about this a couple times, and I do consider myself somewhat of a fast painter, but I think that's a very relative concept. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
relative to who or to what? I think I consider myself a fast painter because I think I paint faster than I even kind of draw, if that makes sense. You know? But I also think that I just work relatively quickly. I spend quite a bit of time in the planning process, right? And I think that helps me really figure out the execution point. And so I think that speeds me up quite a bit. But I mean, relative to other painters, maybe I'm not. I don't really know. But I think I'm a relatively fast painter. I feel like I'm a relatively fast painter. But I don't know if that really matters. You and I have spent quite a bit of time talking about this throughout these live streams, but work at your pace, right? I mean, obviously you said it last time, I think beautifully, like if you have deadlines, right, you got to honor that deadline, right? Or if you're doing a commission piece and you promised it at a certain time, you need to try to uphold that, right? But if you're painting for your own personal growth, who cares at what speed you work?
Yep. That's exactly right. Yeah, I think for me, like my pencil drawing, I'm incredibly slow, as you could see, just in working on this. But with charcoal, I'm actually really fast. I've been working on a secret project.
Ooh,
Secrets.
secrets.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
I'll reveal in a couple months, but one of them, I can say this part. It's a 5 foot tall charcoal portrait,
Oh, beautiful.
and yeah, I was able to get it done in about a day. And when I say a day, I mean like a 10-hour
24 hours.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, and so something like that, if I had used pencil, would taken me probably literally months. But charcoal is so much faster because you can get large areas of tone just by just rubbing all, spreading it on the canvas, or on the paper or whatever you're working on. Whereas with the pencil, it's just a small lead, so you've got to like sit there and just color, basically fill in areas, and you can smudge it, but it's not the same as charcoal. I have really fallen in love with charcoal. It's probably my favorite thing to work in, as far as like more on the fine art side of things. Obviously, with these comic book pages, I definitely prefer the preciseness of a pencil. But when we're talking about kind of larger, more expressive works, portraits, landscapes, still life, that kind of thing, man, I love charcoal. It's so flexible, and yeah, I've just really enjoyed it. So much so when we talk about time and everything, I'm and this is not an official announcement, so don't take this the wrong way, but I've considered taking charcoal commissions at some point,
Ooh.
because I actually enjoy doing it. I think what it is about commissions, and we can get in the subject if you want, we've talked about it before, but I think what it is about commissions is that, for me, if a commission takes a really long time, I just either I this is a honest this is an honest confession. I get resentful because it's taking so long. All I can think about is all the other work that I could be doing.
Yep.
and it's taking me away from the things that I really enjoy. But the advantage of
Yep.
charcoal is that I enjoy doing it and I can do it fast. And
Yep.
so that enables me to complete things quickly. So then I'm not stuck on one project for a long period of time.
Yep.
So that's a unique thing that I've not really experienced in my whole life before. So this is why I'm playing around with the idea of maybe taking commissions, because I can do work and still get my own stuff done. Um, but either way, that, like I said, that's not official, nothing. I'm just
Don't be blowing
something.
them up for work now, folks.
Yeah,
Not yet.
that's just something I'm kind of mulling over in my mind, because I also want to be careful, because I've tried to do commissions in the past, and I'll start a commission and it just hasn't gone well. And I think part of it is just what I said before. I get into a thing, it's taken me forever. But this last one, this little secret project I'm doing is really helping me see that, I love the flexibility and the quickness with charcoal. So and that relates to what you just said about, being fast or not. Like in that situation, if you're taking commissions, as we talked about last week, then yeah, being fast is an advantage. But if you're just for yourself, you don't have a deadline. It's not a big deal. So yeah.
Well,
But
let me ask you this, Chad. If you're somebody who frequents our Thursday night drop-in drawing, you have, I mean, you're able to work very quickly during those drop-in drawings, which are live model sessions. Do you feel like that's helped you? Because you've been doing that now for months, and you lead those classes beautifully, and you do these amazing works, and there's been a lot of really positive feedback to the work that you've done. Do you think that that's helped you kind of grow in your love and want to do more charcoal work, having done those on Thursday nights?
oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it the live drawing is a lot like doing this online. It's kind of a selfish thing. You get 2 hours set aside every week where you can go in and do figure drawing. And for me, I could work on charcoal techniques and approaches and that kind of thing, and just really hone that skill a little bit more. And so yeah, that's been really helpful. And then just working on some things on the side for myself is it's really been, doing the plein air class. We
Oh
we
yeah.
went outside to draw, and I would do all my drawings in charcoal, and that was really nice. The only disadvantage is charcoal is very fragile. Like when you put it on paper, it's very easy to move around and work with, but it's also very easy to smudge once it's done. And even if you put fixative on it, it's not 100%. So you still can smudge it even after that. But yeah, having those opportunities, not only teaching classes but being a part of the online and also the figure drawing, is for me been really helpful, and I know for other students as well. So
Well, it's funny that you say that, because one of our students, well, participants, I shouldn't say student, but one of our participants, she always makes the comment. She's like, "This is the cheapest therapy I get," and I'm
yeah.
like, "Yeah, it is very therapeutic to come in and draw from a reference model and a figure and things like that. I think it is very helpful."
Yeah.
We got a question here from Matt. I think he's asking this specifically to you. Do you like the Nitram charcoal pencils? Ooh, we've got a product review here, but I think I know the answer to this. But Chad, I'm going to let you take that because you're the one that uses them.
Yeah. So I've not used that brand of charcoal pencils. However, I was recently introduced to these bad boys. These are Nitram charcoal sticks, which is, I'm not 100% sold on these. I was thinking it was going to be a bit different than it is, but this is kind of like in between it's not quite like a willow charcoal. It's a bit more substantial than that. The only negative about these charcoal sticks, I guess you could say, is that they can be a bit rough to work with. So like, you can sharpen it to a fine point, which is really nice. And they're long, so you can, they're easy to work with. But when you go to draw on them, they're not 100% consistent. So you can be like drawing with it, and then you'll hit this like dry spot and it'll just scratch. So it's like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's not, it's not what I was hoping it would be, which is basically in between a willow and a compressed. But I found in working with these that actually willow and compressed together works really nicely. So you could put down some compressed really lightly, and then if you put some willow over it and then blend them together, it's got this really nice, smooth, dark, matte feel to it, and then you can get some really nice gradients doing that. The charcoal pencils overall, I like them. They're kind of like these sticks. They're it's hard to describe. Like, so the charcoal pencils are kind of like the ink of charcoal.
Yeah,
In other
yeah,
words, like
I can see that.
once you put it down, it's you can get gradients with charcoal pencils for sure. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it goes down black and it
Yeah,
goes down pretty hard. So like when you go in to try to smooth it out, it's difficult to get a nice blend unless you just lightly kind of scratch the surface with it a bit and then blend it with that. You can do that. So I reserve the charcoal pencil for my personal use, and this just could be my inexperienced speaking, but I tend to use the charcoal pencils only for the small details.
mm.
So for the darkest areas, or if I need to outline something or really get into some details, because you can really sharpen those pencils really nicely. Whereas the vine for me is my favorite, just because, or the willow, or whatever you want to say, but the vine charcoal for me is really nice. It just you just can't get super dark with the vine charcoal, whereas you can
But
with the
there's a looseness
compressed.
though, right?
Yeah, it's just so nice. It's like, as I said before, it's like working with butter. It's just so soft. Um, Whereas the compressed, whether it's the stick or the pencils, they're a little bit less forgiving because they go on black, and they're a little bit. It's almost like using an H, like a
Mm.
3H pencil. They just go on really hard, and they're not as soft and movable to blend, but you just got to work with them. And that's where if you combine the vine with the compressed, they really are nice and smooth together. So you get this nice black that you can really fade out nicely. So I'm still trying to find like these nitrum sticks that are like compressed but work like vine. That would be amazing. If they had that, I'm sure they do. I just haven't been able to
We got to
find it.
find it. Yeah, we got to
Yeah.
find it.
So, but either way, that was a long answer for a short question. You're welcome. That's our
Well,
theme here.
that is typically our
So,
theme.
yep.
The long answer is
Yep.
the answer is he likes them, but it's not what he's looking for.
Yep. Oh, vine is my favorite.
But that is a
And
great question, Matt. Thanks for asking it, brother.
uh,
Dun, dun, dun. These folds take forever. I talked about being a fast painter, and now I'm like really slowing down, which is fine because I need to make sure I get this right. And I really want this blanket to be really nice because I think it's going to provide the contrast that I'm looking for from a texture standpoint. And so I really want to make sure I get it. And I think, painting and drawing drapery, this may sound horrible, but I think executing drapery and materials and folds well, I think shows a little bit of mastery. I think there's like, if you look at it and you go, oh, that's well executed. For
yep.
people who know how challenging it is, it's almost like credibility, if that makes sense. Like, oh yeah, they know what they're doing, right? They know how to
Yeah.
execute. And
Yep.
so there's a little bit of selfishness there too, that I want to be able to show that, hey, I can execute this at this level. Not that I need to prove to anybody anything, but I take a lot of pride in what we do, and I like being able to show our students that I can teach them things. And I have a certain level of mastery that hopefully they respect.
Yep.
Somebody said it last week. They were like drawing AMSR, and I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. I can hear Chad's pencil
Oh yeah.
on the paper. Magnificent. Mm-hmm. If you are interested in classes, our next round of courses, our next quote unquote semester, begins August 11th. We have, I think, over 35 different classes that we're offering. So there will be something that you would like to probably learn. We're launching a new class, our color theory class, which I'm incredibly excited about. And we've got a whole bunch of other offerings as well. So make sure you go to vaaslouisville.com, take a look at our lessons. They are in-person studio lessons, so hopefully you're local and can visit us and take a tour of our facility and jump in and join a class. We are working on online lessons at some point, so if you're not local, you can still learn from us, and hopefully you're learning from us on the live stream as well and getting some of that experience going for you guys.
I was talking to Layla about that color theory class today. She said she had signed up for it. And I was like, I kind of want to take that myself.
I hope I don't mess that one up. It's challenging because color theory is about, in my opinion, especially from one of my former professors who was absolutely brilliant, Deborah Moshe, it's about nuance, right? It's about really being able to tell the difference between a yellow green that's hovering into the cool shade or the warm shade. You know what I mean? Like, it's about that subtlety of color. But we only have a short amount of time in our studio session. So I want to make sure that we are project-based, right, Chad? Focusing on creating projects, but still giving an immense amount of information and knowledge that color theory is truly still the theory of color, if that makes sense at all.
Yep.
I don't know if it does or not. Sometimes I feel like, man, what are you trying to say?
That's why I just say, yep, whenever you're talking.
Sometimes it comes out very wonderfully, and then other times I'm like, I don't think I nailed that one.
No, I'm the same way.
I want enough theory, but I want practical lessons. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
If you're just painting squares, that's not going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And there's a benefit to it, but at the same time, it's really going to stick when you have to use color in a painting or project that you're working on. That's when that's when you really learn it.
I agree. So I hope I've created some lessons and some projects that make people think and really dive into their color and their color choices while still executing at a very high level. And that's the goal. So we will see. This is my first time teaching it out of VAAS. I have made some adjustments to it and to the curriculum, and I think it's going to be really strong. If you've signed up for that class, I hope you're looking forward to it. I am. Sounds like we've got a couple of students that we know are pretty stoked for it. I think it's going to go really, really well. And hopefully you guys will get a chance to come and take a look at all the amazing work everybody's going to do. This blanket is just kicking my butt. You may be saying, well, why? Well, let me explain. The challenge with this is really just value control. Because you want to make things lighter than they seem, but then when I pull back from it, I realize, whoa, this pigment is way too light. And I need to really find that right value, Oh, here's a great question. Janice, what is the theory of color? Well, color theory is a combination of multiple things, Janice, and this is a great question. So one of the ones that comes right out pretty early on is, how does color affect your emotions, and how do we read or engage with color? So the theory of color is partially, what does color ignite in us as viewers, right? What does red ignite in us? What does yellow ignite in us? What are blues? Blues and greens tend to be calming, right? Sense of fluidity. There's all these different, ideas of what does color have us feel and the emotional connection, right, to color. There's also the theory of color, color correlation. How does red affect green as a complementary color? Does it dull it down when mixed, which it does? Does it complement it in a positive way and ignite it when it's placed next to it? How do we mix colors to get the proper color? There's that theory, right? What do I mix with X, Y, and Z to get, A, B, and C? So there's the theory of practical color mixing. There's also the color relationships. What happens if I take this pigment and put it on an orange background versus the same pigment on a blue background? Because it's going to affect it completely different. So the theory of color is color mixing, color emotion, and then color relationships. And those are three of the main things that we'll dive into in that color theory class. I hope that answers your question, Janice. That was actually a very short, succinct answer, which is probably one of the best ones I've ever given. So click the record button on that. But those are three of the major areas of color theory, in my opinion, that I'm going to be teaching in that course. So hopefully people enjoy it. They learn something from it and become better artists because they took it, because that's always the goal. Did that help, Janice? I hope that's what you were looking for. She says, thank you with a heart. Oh, Janice, you're so wonderful. Well, I'm glad. I hope that helps. And maybe we can dive into that a little bit more. I don't want to give too much of it away because I'm still building out some of that curriculum, make sure I got it honed in and perfected, which again, I'll learn so much. Chad, you and I talk about this too. Every time we teach a class, we learn how to execute at a different level, at a higher level or a various level. And it's always a learning and growing process, which I think is healthy. I think we should constantly be growing and learning, in Core Amparo, even with our instruction and everything else that we do.
Yep, I've been thinking about that very thing with classes that we've got coming up. There's a couple of classes that, it's exactly like you say. You finish a class and you look back at it and you think, oh man, I should have done that differently. Or, we're always balancing how much demonstration versus just straight teaching versus time for the students to work in class. That's always a difficult balance to figure out. And on top of that, every student's in a different place and engages differently with each one of those. So there's been classes where I've looked back and I thought, man, I didn't give them enough time for classwork. There's been other ones where feel like I've gave them too much time. There's been others where, classes where you look back and you're like, I didn't give enough instruction. I've made the mistake I think it might be a mistake or maybe it wasn't, but where you're like, okay, we're going to draw, a protagonist, for example. Okay. Here's, you discuss like the different characteristics of a protagonist, how they fit in the story. You do that kind of teaching, and then it's like, okay, now you all design your own protagonist. Well, for some students, that's great. They love that freedom. But then there's other students that need more of a step-by-step.
Yep.
Okay, now let's start with the circle, and we're going to use this circle as the form for the head, and then we're going to add this here and add that there. So, I'm constantly thinking about that. Which classes did I not do enough of that demonstration? Which one did I do too much? It's always a balance. So you're always refining every time you do a class.
I agree. And the reason I'm so grateful is that means we care, right? I mean, if you just kept doing the same thing over and over and didn't constantly assess, whether it's a formal assessment or a summative assessment, right, at the end, that means that we're really looking at it to make sure that we provide each and every single one of you with as much high level instruction as we can. And not only that, we try to cultivate the positive experience, right? You just heard Chad talk about how each student's at a different place. That's hard as an instructor, right? How do you differentiate your instruction, to throw a nice teaching term out there, but how do you differentiate your instruction to accommodate at as much as you possibly can without diminishing the overall classroom experience and not only that, your own passion and methodology of instruction, right? Yep. It is a balancing act. But I'm grateful that we care enough here at the Visual Arts Academy and Studio that we are not just saying, here's what this class is, we're sticking to it. We're saying, hey, here's what this class is. We're going to constantly try to make it better. And I think that's massive.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I'm teaching the same way, after having done a class and, it's the third or fourth time you've done it, like I need to check myself because, there's some things that you're not going to change. They just work and it's good for the curriculum, but there's other stuff where just need some adjustment. You can always get it a little bit better. So.
Well, and I think there's also something to be said about adjusting on the fly with the class group that you have, right? Yeah. There are times where that class group is at a different place collectively. Yes, and that's okay too, sure. Right? Yep. I mean, that's okay too. And, I think being able to adjust, that's one of the things I like about where we're currently at as an institution and as a leadership team and a group, is that we understand fully that we are capable of modifying as we need, right, for the success of our students. And I think that's phenomenal. I think that's a really great thing, and I'm really proud of that, of what we're able to do here at VAAS.
It's like Matt has a color question, so I'll give that one over to you.
Let me see here. What's it say? It says, even warm colors versus cool colors. How a warm blue looks different than a cool blue, and what happens when you mix a warm yellow with a warm blue versus a warm yellow and a warm blue. Exactly. So going back to Janice's comment about, what is the theory of color, Matt just emphasized something about color temperature, right? Which is what we talk about with the temperature of colors. Is it warm? Is it cool? How do they affect each other when they're mixed? How do they affect each other placed next to each other? How do they work in a composition? Do you typically work warm to cool or cool to warm? A lot of painters will work cool to warm, right? And they believe that the warms work better, especially if you're painting in oils. The warms work a little bit better on top of the cools because the cools tend to be shadow areas or colder areas. And so all of that kind of stuff goes into the theory of color. And I think Matt just gave a perfect example of it. Matt, thanks for doing that, brother. It's really good stuff. Color temperature is a big one, which is funny because right now I'm working in a grisaille process, so there is no chroma. But the funny thing is raw umber is a warm pigment, right? I'm using a yellow ochre wash. Well, not a wash, but a yellow ochre imprimatura. And that is warm. So when I talk about I like this warmth coming from my paintings, Chad, a lot of it may be because they're paintings of my family moments, right? And I like the idea that they're kind of warm and they make me feel warm and they make me feel good. They're comforting. Not that cool can't be comforting, but cold, I mean, cool as in temperature. But it's something that I really enjoy with this earth tone and these earth pigments. And maybe that's why I like it a little bit more than just going with the straight Mars black or an ivory black, even though, they're cool and warm as well. But it's definitely something I enjoy, being able to have that warmth to my paintings. So here's an example where I've placed in some of my pigments, but they are definitely not as dark as I want. And so I'm coming back in and pushing some of these deeper folds to really, really enhance it a little bit, really kind of push that value. And I will constantly kind of assess and evaluate where I'm at. Am I getting enough fold? Oh, no, I'm not getting enough fold there. I got to go a little bit darker, right? And so you should always kind of work on that. And here in a little bit, I really should step back. I haven't stepped away from my painting in a little bit, which if you're in any of my classes, you'll know that's something I harp on. Get away from your painting. The way that it looks when you're up close to it is not how it's always going to read when you're at a proper viewing distance or even where you want to be viewing from it. And so here in a second, I need to get up out of my chair and step away and really take a look at how this is going. But not yet. I'm too much in the zone on this. What a challenge. Boy, this is, Chad, you told me to challenge myself, right? And that's part of what kind of started some of these paintings, is you and I discussing, pushing ourselves a little bit in different creative endeavors. And I'm so glad I have. I'm so glad that you encouraged me. Thomas encouraged me. My wife, Caitlin, encouraged me to push, because it's just exhilarating when you start to see improvement. You know what I mean? Like, or it's not even just improvement. It's improvement in execution, if that makes sense. Like I feel like I'm becoming more comfortable in painting portraits and this large. I mean, these are large paintings, 30 by 40, 30 inches by 40 inches. And so I enjoy painting this large and having some of this success with it. I'm really grateful that I have people surrounding me, again, being part of a community that's motivated me and encouraged me to push beyond what I would probably normally do. Get out of your comfort zone, like you tell your students, right? When you go home, what do you always tell them, Chad? I think it's brilliant. I don't want to steal your thunder.
I don't know. What do I always tell them?
A lot of times, well, I'll kind of lead you with it. A lot of times when students go home, they draw and paint the things that they want to paint.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I always give them a hard time because they come in with their sketches or stuff they worked on that week, and it's usually all the stuff they like to draw. It's usually anime characters or video game things or their cat or dog or some character they've made or whatever. And then as soon as I ask them about drawing a still life or a portrait or whatever, they tend to push back quite a bit because that's not what they like to draw. And I always tell them, well, it's because the things you like to draw are usually the things that you're good at. It's the things that you do all the time. But if you want to improve as an artist, you need to pick those things to work on that you're not good at and put in the work there. And that will improve the things that you are good at even more. And so that's always a constant challenge with students.
But it's a good lesson. I think it's a good focal point, right? And let's be clear, there's nothing wrong with painting the things that you like to work on.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing the sketches that you like to do. But if you're trying to grow and improve your skill sets, there is something to be said about going outside of your comfort zone and challenging yourself. That's where growth comes from, right? I think about it's like lifting weights, right? Or body weight work, an exercise. You've got to, Chad, you ran and you run and you got to run. You got to go and do it, right? If you just stay in that same comfort zone, you're not gonna improve. Your health's not gonna improve. Your physicality is not gonna improve. So you got to get out there and you got to do the work. And if you're trying to improve as an artist, which we focus very academically here, we focus on improvement and growth. And if you're wanting to do that, sometimes your teacher is going to push you to get outside that comfort zone, to draw something a little bit different, because we know it's going to make you a better artist. And we were very fortunate to have people in our lives do the same thing for us. I'm excited for these surprises that you've got coming, man. I'm all over here getting antsy, like, ooh.
Surprises? What do you mean?
Well, like, like what you're working on, and your secret
works.
Yeah.
Secrets.
That's exciting. It's like Christmas is coming early.
Maybe I'll show you. I'll show you a couple of photographs of it when I'm up there on next day I'm up there.
Awesome. I've got something to look forward to. Something happened recently that was fun and at the same time made me feel old. I had my wife and I watch Happy Gilmore 2, and I realized how long ago Happy Gilmore actually came out.
Yep. So I'm very surprised you've not brought up that topic you had.
My epiphany?
We're considering.
Yeah. What do you think? Should we give it a go?
I mean, I think it's we've talked a little bit about it before. I think there's
AI art on here.
I know, that's my hesitation. I'm like, well, you could really get into some controversy a bit, but
I'll go for it.
I mean, go for it.
I mean, so here's the gist. We've talked a lot about AI. We've talked a lot about what's it doing and how's it affecting things. And essentially, I saw an article, and again, I've been working and doing all this stuff, so I haven't dove into it too much. But essentially what I saw is that Microsoft somebody released a list of jobs that will be impacted the most by AI. And then they're trying to tell people, like there's this whole thing now, like, don't get into coding. Coding's dead. Humans can't code anymore, right? Like, coding is going to be outsourced to AI. And this whole article was about, what careers, what jobs people should look into, because AI is going to be dominating all these other fields, and there's going to be things that people just won't be doing anymore because AI will be taking it over. And I thought it was interesting because the list of these jobs were primarily jobs about the human condition. It was writers, painters, artists, concept designers, story, it was like all these different things. And it had some other ones in there that you're like, okay, yeah. And it's like graphic design work and image making and all this stuff. And I'm not saying that AI isn't going to, be utilized in these fields and executed at a high level. But then all the jobs that it said, go and find a job in, go and get a job in, was all manual labor. It was all things that they say, like, AI can't do, which is physical work, which there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with a hard day's work and physical labor and manual labor. There's nothing wrong with that. That is part of the human experience. However, the problem I have with it is they were essentially saying that human creation and human experiences and emotion are going to be outsourced to something that is not human or emotional. And it's almost as if they're positioning us not to be creative people. And inherently, we were created by a creator, in my opinion, to be creative. And it's saying, don't be a creative endeavor. Don't be a creative individual. Take all these things, because AI is just going to come up with every concept and every AI idea out there. And that's just not true. And they're conditioning us to be manual labor workers, worker ants, which there's nothing wrong with that. I came from a family of manual labor workers. There's nothing wrong with it. But the thing is don't sit here and position it as AI can do something that only a human can do. Because as you've talked about, Chad, and I'd love for you to chime in on this, it's regurgitation, not inherent creation. And I think it's funny that they're positioning us and training us to say this job is this and that job is that. This is the professions that are worth something. And I just really struggle with that and challenge that, because even AI will tell you in itself that those who can create real entities are going to be more valuable in the future, because what is real and what is not real. And what's real, it's a joke. It's a line from a book and a movie. The real world's the only place to get a good meal, right? Because there's physical, tangible things and entities and things that are created, is amazing to me. And Matt actually says, he goes, interesting considering Microsoft is one creator of AI. Of course they're pushing this. They're investing billions and trillions of dollars in this endeavor because they want manual labor workers, not creative endeavors or free thinkers or consciousness of the human experience and the condition. They don't want that. And I think that's the scariest part. And I think we should be conscious of it. Yes, I'm not afraid of AI. AI's, computers are never going to go away. And that's okay with me. I'm not calling for them to go away. But there is a part of the human experience and the human condition, poetry and music and art and compositions and theory and grieving. All of this cannot be replicated. Now, can it tell a great story? Sure, fine. Could it tug at our heartstrings? Yes, because it's pulling from other things that other great writers and creators have created. That's the difference. And it just blew me away that they're positioning it in that manner of, don't get this job, don't create this, or don't do that. Well, it's because, as Matt pointed out, they're investing billions of dollars into that as a tool. And non-human humans are easier to manipulate and control and to make you buy and think and do what you want. Be the right kind of sheep for a flock, not the other kind. Well, that was my soapbox moment. Sorry, Chad.
I'm just over here drawing.
I think it's interesting.
I think the only thing I would say is that, like, the whole thought of, go be, laborers or whatever, their AI is going to take over that too, because
robotics.
They're going to be able to, like, they're already in factories. That's what Matt just said. Yeah, they're already in factories. They'll be able to harvest the food. They already have like probably it's like self-driving tractors that can harvest, crops and things like that. So, I mean, it'll take over that too. So it'll definitely be an interesting world. That is for sure. But to your point, like, AI, it can mimic what we do as far as creating things, and unfortunately, it's going to be harder and harder to distinguish between real creation, I think, and human creation. But at the same time, it's not going to be able to fully do the same things that we can do as humans.
Yeah. I saw a video of a gentleman showcasing this piece of artwork from a robot carving it in marble, and it was mimicking the David.
Oh yeah.
And this guy's like, why would I? This makes something like the David accessible to everyone, and blah blah this, and like now everyone can experience it. And I go, wait, no, this is a replication. Yeah, okay, it's just like creating a mold, but you are not creating something unique and new. And not only that, the human touch of it is not the same, right?
Yeah.
Just because it's putting in zeros and ones and numbers and the machine is replicating this does not make it the same. People weep when they see the David or the Pietà. And part of that, I think, comes from the idea that it was created by human hands.
But I think the thing that's going to be maddening is that there will be people that will argue constantly that AI creation is the same or on the same level as human creation. And you already kind of see that a little bit with, some people that make AI art that would argue that it's original to them. And it's like, well, it's not. You've told a computer to do all of the things that a regular artist like you or me takes years and years and years, a lifetime to get to, So yeah, it's just that's the part for me that's the most frustrating. And I've seen it a couple times, and there's a couple of particular examples or people that I'm thinking in my mind that do that will call AI art their original art. And it's like, it's not. You've told the machine what to do, so that part is. So
Yep.
in that sense, you're basically an art director. You're not really
Yep.
the artist. The computer is the one that's doing what you're telling it to do. So I guess on that level, conceptually, you can say it's yours, but it's just hashing out the same kind of thing. And right now, AI is not developed enough for it to, I mean, and sometimes it is, but it's so funny when I see people that don't really know a whole lot about AI art and they'll put it out there like it's some brilliant new thing. I'm like, you could tell when it's AI. Like
Yes.
it just has a look. And I fear the day when that look goes away and it genuinely looks real. And that's,
And don't get me wrong, I think it's a great tool. I do. I think it's a great tool.
yeah,
And utilized as a tool for the right reasons, I don't have a problem with it. I really
yeah,
don't. I really,
yeah,
really don't. It's kind of like Photoshop, right? I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
I like Photoshop. It's a great tool. It's it allows you to create things and do things, and it's a phenomenal tool. Just like I'm not opposed to computers. It's a great tool. But I think that when you say it's something that it isn't, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah,
And there's the difference. Like, I mean, we use AI for a lot of our social media posts because we're a small business, right? And it helps tremendously. It's a phenomenal tool. Um, but I just think that when you get away from it, of the idea of it being self-sufficient and not a tool, that's a challenge for me. It's not independent creative thought.
yep, yep.
But we are just two artists. I'm always curious to know what other people think. We may disagree with you profoundly, but that's okay. That's the beauty of being human, right? Let's see what we've got here. We'll end up like the world of Wall-E, where no one works. That's what scares me. You know, there is thoughts. I mean, and some people position it that way, Matt, of where, hey, we're going to create a world where you have more free time to do the things that you want and do. Well, one of the things that I think is interesting is what happens when people have too much free time often. Not good, right? When life is too easy, you know, it's not always a good result. And I love the movie Wall-E, but it speaks to the human condition very, very deeply. And I hope that we don't actually get to that point. You know, I think that there's a lot of challenges in the world, and obviously we're speaking from a first world standpoint, right? So fair enough. I want to make sure that that's clear, you know, but there are some challenges around the world where, you know, certain elements would help tremendously, and that would be a blessing, and that would be amazing. And I'm all for that. But let's not get it misconstrued, right? Let's not take those cases and say, well, this is the new norm, and this should be the next big thing, and this is replacing this or that. No, let's help those areas and people that we can and create a better existence for them. But let's not move away from the human existence. It's still good to feel things and to experience things and to share that. That's what's relatable, in my opinion. I often talk as an example, if you've ever seen Harry Potter, which many number of people have. I think one of the most brilliant pieces of writing, and I say this coming from being an educator, both in traditional schools as well as here at VAAS, is I think one of the best pieces of writing ever was Professor Dolores Umbridge. And it's one of those things where, you know, I found, Chad, and I don't know if you're a huge Harry Potter fan or not. We haven't actually discussed it, but I find that more people dislike Professor Umbridge more than they dislike Voldemort. And it's because she's almost like a personal evil, right? And it's relatable. J.K. Rowling is able to write something that's relatable because, unfortunately, many of us have had an educator or a teacher in their life that made their experience really bad. Now, that is something that a human had to have experienced to be able to relate for other humans to experience and to relate and know, right? AI's never had a bad teacher, right? They've never been embarrassed or humiliated in class in front of their peers by someone in a position of authority over them. Now, they may have heard stories of that, been fed stories of it, but they can't articulate it in a way that millions of people over 30, 40 years, however many years, 20, 30 years, can still pick up that book and dislike that character in that novel series for the same reasons, because it's part of a human condition regurgitated by human, related by other humans. And I think that's huge. Now, is AI going to be able to regurgitate things and make us feel that way? Sure. But it's replication, not true creation. I think that's just one of the best pieces of writing that J.K. Rowling did, because it's so relatable. And if you've never had an educator do that, you are incredibly fortunate. And I hope that we can be some of those educators for you. I'll go ahead and continue on, Chad, and pontificate a little bit here. I've always said this about coaching and teaching. You get to be one of three types of teachers or coaches. And I'm not saying I've succeeded in this in my life. I've tried, but I failed, I'm sure, many times. But you get to be one of three types of teachers or coaches. You get to be the type of teacher that everybody remembers, or people or somebody remembers, because you were a Dolores Umbridge. You made a horrible experience and you left a lasting legacy. Think of that. Most people, if I asked right now and you're watching this, you could probably spout out a name. You could probably say, oh, yep, I had one of those. It was so-and-so, Mr. Jones, right? I'm going to say my name. That way nobody's offended. It could be whatever name it is, right? You probably have had an experience. Or you can be the next one up, which is the teacher nobody remembers. Chad, who was that third grade teacher that you had for English? I don't know. I don't remember them. Now, I'm not saying that that was good or bad, right? I'm not saying that they were a horrible teacher or a bad teacher or an educator like Dolores Umbridge. I'm just saying, and sometimes that's okay, but I'm just saying that's a teacher that, didn't impact a life, and that's okay. You can't impact everyone. Fair enough, right, Chad? I think you'd agree with that. You're not always going to be the worst, and you're not always going to be the best, but you can strive to be the third type of teacher, which is the one that has an impact on you for the rest of your life. And I have been so fortunate to have so many of those. Cecilia Ridge, Doug DeWeese, Michael Cummings, Jorge Alvarez, Professor Deborah Moshe. I could go on and on and on. And even some of the ones that I can't remember their names, but they hold a place in my heart. Those are the things that we want to articulate. And AI is not going to be able to do it because it has to be that human-to-human experience. It's not going to go away, Chad. And I get that. And that's okay. But I want us to keep a clear vision as a society of what it is. And really, what we are and what we were created as. We'll see if we get any comments or feedback on that. It may be going, whoops, delete that episode. I don't know. I hope not. But Matt and Janice, thanks for contributing there. I appreciate you guys. Absolutely amazing. Thank you. It's funny, we were talking about it. We actually have Malfoy Manor Antiquities join. Thanks for joining. Somehow your algorithm heard us say Harry Potter and it threw it out there for you and you joined in with us. We're grateful for it. We love seeing you. Thanks for jumping on. I think often of the music world as well, Chad. The poetry and the music, that pain or that vocal strength, of something that was uniquely written and experienced. It's like poetry,
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Now, I'm sure in the future, Chad, because you and I have seen it, it's like the I can't believe it's not butter test, right? There will be so many things that come out where they'll say, read this. Well, was that human or was that AI? And they're going to try to trick everybody and play this game of, well, you couldn't tell. Well, that was so emotional. It's like AI voiceovers and everything nowadays. And you're right. There will come a time where it's so real. It's too real. Right. And you're right. We probably will get, well, not you, Chad, but people are right. We probably will get tricked. Wow, that was a beautiful piece of poetry. Oh, great. Well, that was AI generated. Yes, but as we said, and I'm going to reiterate one more time, where did it get its source from?
Yeah.
Was it created independently? And then they'll release a true thinking machine. Yep. And I'm sure they will. I'm sure it will be truly thinking independently. But then you have to consider, is it consciousness? Is it sentient?
Well, someone will think it is.
I'm sure people will. And I hope my daughters are brave. Because the world that's coming for them is vastly different than what we've experienced and grown up with. I wonder often if that's how my grandparents felt in their generation, right? Is it a continuation from generation to generation,
Yep.
What does that look like? Thanks for encouraging me to talk through that.
Well, I knew you needed to get it out of your system. I knew you had to work through a lot of those I'm just providing you free therapy.
Yeah. Well, and as we've talked about, being a part of this community and creating, it is therapeutic, right? Knowing we get that 2 hours, everything disappears for me. The struggles of the day, the challenges, the worries. I'm just creating with all of you, painting together, relaxing, or getting overly passionate about the world that's coming too. I'm not afraid, of that either. I think this is a great place and a great forum to do it. And I'm honored that we get to do it together, guys. I'm honored that you're here with Chad and I doing it. Because we're all going to have to do it together. And a great community. I agree. Community takes it. Your tribe, your village, your pack, your group, your community, all of that helps. I agree. We had a wonderful drop-in drawing session 2 nights ago, Chad. I thought it was wonderful. Great group of artists coming and creating, and it's exhilarating when people go, I'm just having fun. This is fun. I'm having fun. And that makes me just so happy to hear.
Yeah, the model was a little suspect, but other than that, yeah.
Yeah, he was a little rough. Him and his crazy hat and apron. It was me, guys, if y'all couldn't determine that. I do enjoy it, though. I really do. I get a kick out of it. I think it's fun to be on the other side. And I actually like jumping up there every now and then.
Yeah, I feel the same way when I did it as Gandalf. It was awesome. I loved it.
It's a lot of pressure, though. I don't know if it's because we are artists or I'm like, I want to hold the pose. I'm sitting there sweating, like, don't move, do not move.
But that's the advantage as an artist. You know what are good poses. You know what people are looking for. You may not be able to provide it because you're an old man, but
that is true. That is true. I was down on one knee, guys. You guys, and I tried to stand up, and I thought I was about to crumple over. And I hit it pretty well. I'm like, nope, I'm good. I'm good. I'm making it. Just a wonderful, wonderful drop-in drawing experience. And we're glad. Hopefully you guys get to join us. Come and create with us, draw with us, paint with us, work on whatever materials you want. We've got some people who've brought in oils and worked on it. We've had some people come in with watercolors and work on it, pastels, pencils. Carla's work with colored pencils and markers and everything else is just absolutely brilliant. I always think it's funny. She's like, I'm just getting back into the flow of it. I'm like, that's what you say is getting back into the flow?
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. We've got some very talented people that come through this place, and we're honored. We got a whole bunch of people joining over on different platforms. Guys, you guys are absolutely wonderful. Thank you again, everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, Instagram. We're so grateful that all of you guys have joined and are watching us. We got a wonderful comment from Matt again. He just keeps throwing them out. He goes, I greatly look forward to this time every week. I don't want to see each episode end. We don't either. But if we keep painting, Chad and I could probably sit here and work for hours and hours and hours, and we've got kids and other responsibilities. But it's such a blast to be here with everybody, working together, creating together. It's such a joy. Matt, we love all your feedback. We love everybody that's jumped in. Kevin Mercer, everybody over there. Thank you guys. You guys are absolutely brilliant. We love you guys. Everybody over on X, you guys are absolutely wonderful. it's just such a good time to get together to paint and work together and create together. It's honestly just a joy. And yeah, I'll keep saying it over and over. I know I'm repetitive, but it's the truth. You know what else the truth is that this blanket is kicking my butt. I know, so all of you guys that are watching, I know I'm going to have to come back in and add in some additional dark layers on this. And that's okay. I'm working in layers. It's the beauty here. And I'm working in these layers, and I'm planning for that. So if you see some areas, they may look a little flat. They may not have as high level of contrast as I normally would want, but I'm going to build into it. I'm going to build into those layers and have that really kind of come to life on that next set of layers. And so I've really got the good patterning down. I feel really good about that. I feel really good about some of the other folds and the elements. I like the looseness. If you guys remember, we were talking about a little bit ago, the looseness of the paint on the blanket versus how tight, or what I would call tightly rendered, the skin and the flesh is. And so I'm really happy and pleased with where that's at. I just want to make sure that I get my values. You guys know, if you follow along, I talk very extensively about value control and how values are incredibly important. I want to make sure that my values are really ramped up and where they need to be. And so in some of these areas, I know that I'm going to come back and really tighten up some of those values and bring them into a higher level of contrast. So know if you're looking at this, and I'll pull the camera off and show you guys what I've gotten done so far, you'll see that there are some areas where I will absolutely want to add some value and some value control and depth, if you will. But I'll show you guys what I'm talking about here in just a minute. How's your drawing going, Chad?
I'm starting to kind of define the ship, kind of cleaning it up a little bit. So I'm pretty happy with the direction it's going, and still needs a little work, but feel pretty good about it so far.
That's wonderful. We're all suffering here with you, bud. If you guys are just joining us, Chad likes to joke about suffering through some of these pencil processes, and yet his work is just absolutely magnificent. It's lovely.
Oh, thank you.
It's a joy to suffer with you, my friend. Misery likes company, but it's such a treat. I get a kick out of it, guys, because I get to see Chad's work here in the academy, but I get such a joy at seeing this story come to life. We literally had a student earlier. He's absolutely wonderful. He's a young man. And I asked him what his favorite class session was. And today we did comics and cartooning. And he goes, this one. And I said, oh, the comics and cartooning. He goes, yes, because I got to see my story come to life. And I'm like, that's awesome. That's it, you know?
That's awesome.
And that's what we get to experience with you, is we're getting to watch behind the scenes this third epic story come to life in your amazing universe that you've created. And I hope all of you out there really appreciate what we get to experience, because you get to see it behind the scenes. You get to see it come to life. And then hopefully you get a chance to experience it in its completed form. Come and pick up a copy and experience what this story is as it comes to fruition. And that's a cool experience, in my opinion. Get to be a part of it and see it come together, I think, is just really, really neat. So for all of you joining us on this journey, cheers, because it's a lot of fun and something that might be a rarity in your life. And I think it's really cool. I mean, you could say the same thing about joining my painting process too. I mean, you know.
Nope.
Not quite the same.
I'm actually distracted right now because I'm trying to get this part how it needs to be. So
focus on that. We got you. I think we have a new goal. We got to do a live stream live from a con.
From a what? You got cut off there for a second.
We got to do a live stream live from a convention.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's going to be on the bucket list for VAAS Live. We got to get that one.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Care of.
Especially if you're sitting there drawing while people are walking by, they love to stop and talk to you, and that'd be great.
It's going to be a blast. And thanks to all of you, we get to keep doing this. And so we're very grateful that you guys are supporters and encouragers and contributors. It's wonderful. You know, we make a joke, it takes a village. Well, it takes a village for this as well. I want to thank my amazing wife and children for being so supportive, for Thomas and Michelle and Zach and everybody that's involved here, all the team members here, Sarah Nicole and Layla and Chad, even our former artists in residence, Owen, just everybody that's involved, all the families and young artists. We wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for you guys. We do it for you guys, but we also do it with you guys. And we're so grateful that you are involved and part of this. To all of our amazing students, Janice, Martha, Matt, everybody, we're so grateful for each and every single one of you. And we want to provide the best possible experience, whether it's through VAAS Live or through our community experiences, our lessons, our courses, our workshops, our gallery experiences, our student exhibitions, whatever it is. VAAS wants to provide a phenomenal creative experience for you. And we hope that we're given that. And we are always going to get better. We're always going to get stronger. And we're going to give you the best that we can give you. I promise you that.
So Matt has a question or a comment. He says, I know what it was like for Chad to spend the day with a well-known comic book artist. I don't even want to read the rest of the comment. That was just enough right there. I now know what it was like for Chad to spend the day with a well-known comic book artist. I did spend the day with a well-known comic book artist, and it was probably one of the best days of my life. I got to have lunch with him. I got to ask him questions. I got to see his work. I got to, just learn about the industry, just learn about, his process and who he is as a person. And we held hands and gazed into each other's eyes and signed each other's comic books and just talked about life. It was just amazing. The whole day together. Yeah, it was great. Anyways, Matt's comment continues. I now know what it was like for Chad to spend the day with a well-known comic book artist as we get to spend time with Chad. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Thank you, Matt. Yeah. That was a beautiful comment. I appreciate that. I'm nowhere near the level that the comic book artist, the well-known comic book artist that I got to spend a day with, nowhere near his level, but I appreciate the compliment either way.
Well, there's a couple of things there. I would agree with Matt entirely. It is amazing to get to see our own humble wizard and his talent and his skill, his mastery. I think it's absolutely exhilarating. And I also am excited that David Mack was a good human being. And it makes me happy to know that you had a great experience with him, because I think he is great. I think he's an incredibly talented artist, and I'm glad that he was kind and you had that experience, because a lot of times you hear the opposite of that, Chad. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you don't always hear those kind of interactions. And so first off, it makes me incredibly happy. And it also makes me happy to know that you're that same kind of person and that you provide, good experiences for our students and for Matt and everybody else that's involved. And then I also said, it's funny you say this, Matt, because earlier today I said, one of these days, this live stream is going to get so big that we are going to get the great and powerful, almighty, wonderful David Mack on here. And I'm not going to tell Chad he's coming. And I'm going to have him on here, and he's going to be like, I don't know who this guy is. And it's exactly going to be exhilarating because I'm going to rub it in Chad's face. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. But we will. We are going to get there someday that hopefully we'll have David Mack. We'll have other creators, other artists. We're working on getting some international artists on as well and some unique individuals. Guys, this is a growing endeavor. This is something that we want to continue to grow and get better at. But we knew that we wanted to expand our community reach. We know we have a lot of creative individuals. We have a lot of wonderful people out there that are not local to the Louisville, Kentucky market we have people that have engaged with us from, different countries across the world, different parts of the United States. We wanted something that we knew we could connect with all of you, no matter where you're at, whether it's the comfort of your own home or a plane or anywhere, wherever you are. And that's what VAAS Live is. And if we get big enough someday, hopefully we'll invite some really talented, amazing artists that you can have an experience with for a few hours. And I think that's the beauty of the medium, is that you get to have a relationship not only with myself and Chad, and everybody, adores Chad, rightfully so. He's brilliant. But I think the goal is to have those unique experiences without having to be at a convention or to pay for it. You get to experience talent and energy, and you get to create with us and others. You don't just have to have a unique one-off day, which I think is a phenomenal thing, right, Chad? I think those are great. But hopefully we provide that for you here, and that's what you guys get to experience. And hopefully we'll get there, and I can surprise the living crap out of you, and he'll join us one day.
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. I just think he's just so uniquely talented and just does a lot of things that, in the comic book world is not typical,
Yeah.
All right. I think it's time for me to, I keep putting it off, but it's time for me to step back. I say that as I keep working this. I'm just going to keep working this one in here, guys. All right. Put the brush down, Seth. Step away. Give yourself an evaluation. Take a look. Oh, if I can get up. Oh, yep. Oh. Let's see. Ooh, all right. Okay. I see one area I really got to hone in on. But it is getting there. In fact, let me do that now before I forget what I was looking at.
Are you going to give us your evaluation? Give it your self-critique? What's the area that you need to work on?
Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad you said that. Thank you, Chad. Let me take the camera out. So what it is there is, so if you can see this now you get a little bit better view. And if you guys look, there's this section right here that is not deep enough of a crevice. I need it to fold a little bit more. And I'm going to put a little bit of a darker value along this and feather it out. So this section here is folding nicely behind. This section here is folding nicely behind. But this one right here in the middle is flattening out. It's not rolling as much as I want. And so you can see to the right, that value's nice and deep. To the left, that value's nice and deep. But right here in the middle, it's not getting enough contrast. And so this is where I really need to push this. It's not necessarily a line. I don't want you guys to think it's going to be a line. It's not a line. But I need to push that value in between. And you can see even over here in this patterning, boom, boom, boom. Nice, deep, dark crevices and folds. And then all of a sudden it flattens out right over here. And so I don't want it to flatten out right over here. So I'm going to, while it's still wet, because I probably won't be able to work on this for a couple of days, I'm going to go ahead and do some wet on wet brush mixing and push this edge a little bit darker, and I'll be a lot happier with it. Hopefully that was a good enough explanation.
Oh, it's great. It is interesting when people that don't draw or paint, when they look at something, they'll say something to the effect of like, oh no, that looks great, but then as the artist, you're looking at something, you can see some small detail that you're like, no, it needs to be just a little bit darker here.
Yep.
And I think that's that's one of the big differences of creative people. They can see that, they can visualize the way it should look, and they're able to put that into action and make it happen. Whereas someone else that just doesn't know how to do it, they get stuck. They're like, I don't know what to do now. I mean, I guess all artists will get to that. I mean, that's part of the problem solving of art. But there is just, I've had so many times where with my wife, for example, I'll have her look at something and she's like, no, it looks great. I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't see that this part needs to be like a little bit darker? No, I mean, I just keep it how it is. Like, no. And yeah,
Well, do you think some of that though comes from training too, right? I think you're right. I agree with you that there is like that creative eye, I guess, right? Or that creative mind, if you will,
Yep.
if that's the right way to put it. But I think also some of it comes from training, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, no, wait, that's not right. That fold isn't, because I mean, if I'm sure if Alvarez were here and looking at this, he'd be like, oh, you've got it all wrong over here and here and here and here,
Yeah.
But that's because he's been so trained and so experienced over his life. And I hope I can get there to where I have that, but I think part of it is just that creative eye. It's just like singers, you and I joke about, well, we don't joke, but your wife is a very talented singer. Well, she may hear a note and be like, oh, that's off. That key is off, right?
Yeah.
Or my father-in-law, who's a musician, he can hear a guitar and tune it to ear just by knowing it. And I'm sitting there going, it sounds good to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds all right to me. No, that's way off. That's way out of tune. Are you sure? Because it sounds pretty good.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
But that's that expertise too. I mean, that's when you get that's the difference between good and great. People can hit a baseball, but can you hit a baseball that's thrown at 98 miles an hour?
Yeah.
And then hit it, 450 feet, perfect. I mean, there's so many different analogies we could give, but hopefully you all out there listening understand what we're trying to say. But don't think that if you're going, well, I could never, I can't see that. I'm not trained. I don't have that. I'm just here creating. And no, don't accept that. You can do that too. If you want to achieve it, you can practice, you can work, you can learn to see what's not working, what is and isn't. And some of you may have a God-given talent, or an edge or a creative edge or something like that. But hard work always pays off. It will always get you there. Work at it, study it, ask questions, engage with it, take some lessons. You can do it. Don't think that this isn't something that you can do. You can do these kind of things. It's just, how bad do you want it? And are you willing to put in the work? We get people that come in all the time that go, I want to paint. I've always wanted to be a painter. And then they leave after the first session and go, well, I guess I'm not a painter. Well, of course you're not after one session. You haven't done it your entire life. You haven't worked at it. Spend some time. Give me 2 weeks. Give me a couple months. Give you a couple years. You will see improvement. You will get better. And you will be exhilarated by the successes that you have.
Yeah, and if you give up, you're exactly right. You won't be a painter because that was it. That's all you did, and then
Well, we had a famous video. Well, not a famous video, but it was one of our more successful YouTube videos of you saying, there's no success if you give up, kind of like what you were saying. And then this person gets on there and they go, no success as an artist unless you give up. And I wanted to be like, okay, yeah, but you're missing the point. I'm like, I get what they're saying, and what they're saying is great. But part of me wanted to be like, okay, but now you're just kind of being a turd because you understand what we're saying, right?
Yeah.
Like, I get your philosophical endeavors, great, love it. But you understand what we mean when we say, if you give up, you're not going to grow.
Yeah.
Unless you're a modern contemporary artist and want to jump off a trampoline and drag a marker across the wall.
Yep.
There's a gentleman, and I should give him a shout out, but I can't remember his tag or his name. He does these beautiful little commentaries on like, is this art or whatever? And he does these beautiful ones on Instagram and stuff, and they're great. And I almost always agree with him. And there's times when he's like, yeah, this is brilliant. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just this old curmudgeon who's on here going, like, this isn't art. None of this is art. You all don't know. It's not that. He's a brilliant, curator, I think, and assessor. And, he makes these comments about some of these things. And I'm going, dude, you're pretty spot on. I love your stuff. I'll need to find it and I'll post it on here. But I think his assessments are pretty good. You know what I mean, Chad? Like,
yeah, I think I know.
He's like, this is brilliant.
I think I know who you're talking about. There's a guy, if this is the same guy, where he has like, I think it was like, I forget how many, like 4 or 5 different distinguishing marks, whether it, I can't think of it now, but he basically just does math. He's like, well, it did this, but it didn't do that. It did this, so the score is this, so yes, it's art or whatever. But maybe that's not the same guy. But
No,
I've seen.
I don't think it's the guy that has the whatchamacallit. It's just this gentleman who gets on there. He's puts his face over top the videos of these people doing different artworks, and he gives it this. I need to look it up. Let me see what. Now, I'm not going to be able to find it. When you need to find it, you can't find it.
Yeah, and you have 4 minutes to find it.
Yeah, I won't find it. I'm going to find it,
luck.
and I'll talk about it next week. But man, what a wonderful experience. I'm really excited here, guys. My painting's coming along. I'm going to zoom out for you guys, kind of give you guys the last little tidbit here of what I'm looking at, what I'm working on. Move my chair out. And boy, Chad, it's just such an honor to get to do this with you week in and week out, buddy. It's always a blast. And let's see if you guys can see that. I got to get further away.
It's looking
good. It's starting to come together.
I am so impressed. This is your 3rd painting you're working on since the time that we've gotten together. So I love it. Thanks.
I'm pretty motivated being around you and around all of our other guests and being here in the studio. I mean, this is a dream come true, to run and operate and own the Art Academy. It's truly exhilarating. I come in every day truly being motivated. I mean, very few people get this opportunity in life, and I'm so grateful to all of our team and to all the students and the families that make this doable. And I'm thankful to all of you all and every viewer that we have. You guys are amazing. Thank you, guys.
Janice says it looks awesome.
Oh, Janice, you're so sweet. I can't wait for you to see it in person soon. Then you can really tell me what you think. But Janice, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And thanks. I think it's starting to come together. And I honestly, I feel like I'm getting better, Chad. I feel like I'm improving with my application and my success rate of these paintings. And I'm exhilarated for the next paintings to come. That's part of it. I want to work on this one to get it done so I can move on to the next one. And then the next, it's exhilarating.
Yeah. And the complexity of this one is definitely notched, next level from the other ones you've worked on. So it's amazing.
Keep pushing and challenging ourselves. Well, Chad, it's kind of wrapping up on that time, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Chad, look at this page. Look at this sketch work. Guys, if you don't see the beauty in those pencil lines, it's a thing of beauty. It's absolutely amazing. Anything you want to give us a little feedback on that, Chad?
No, it's just that same spaceship, just from a different angle coming up at, towards you. I feel like I've got it in a good spot. I'm working on some of that smoke trail behind it, and I just got to clean up a few little areas, but I think we're on our way.
That's awesome. I do want to give a quick shout out. Tony, great to see you. She says, hey there, miss you all and miss coming in. We miss having you here too. We hope you're doing great. Miss having you in the studio. Hopefully we'll get you back in here soon. We got a couple paintings we need to get you to finish up. But it was awesome having you in the studio. Hopefully we'll get you back in there. Great to see you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for VAAS Live episode number 35, Chad. Believe it or not, we missed a couple of numberings. Wow. I went back, recounted. Today's episode was episode 35. Can you believe that, buddy? 35 VAAS Live episodes.
That's amazing. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, next Saturday, we're going to be back live creating again. We'll see what you guys have got. Bring us some pictures. Show us some pictures. Send them in. You can email us at info@VAAS Louisville, VAAS Louisville.com. Send me some photos. Send me some info. I'll put it up here, and we'll share it with everybody out in the community. We hope that you're creating live. We hope that you guys are exhilarated throughout the week. We will see you next Saturday, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Instagram Live, X, and Twitch, your platform of choice. Until then, we'll see you next Saturday. Keep creating, everybody.
See y'all.